I, Dominic LeBlanc, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will truly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trusts reposed in me as Minister of Public Safety, Democratic Institutions, and Intergovernmental Affairs. So help me God.
And that's what we're hearing out of Ottawa at this hour. Minister after minister being named and doing their oath this morning as we see the biggest shakeup, the biggest changes to Justin Trudeau's cabinet since he became prime minister in 2015. To break this down, let's go to David Heurtel, a former Quebec Liberal cabinet minister, counsel at Fasken, and of course a political analyst right here at CJAD. David, welcome back.
Thanks, Elias.
So let me ask you it this way. Who do you think, who are the biggest losers this morning? Which demotion or booting from cabinet are you paying attention to?
Well, I got to say, from a Quebec perspective, obviously David Lametti, and we know this since yesterday, but the fact that David Lametti is not coming back into cabinet is a huge demotion. Now, the official line, of course, is that he's decided not to run again. But the way this played out, you know, with meetings since Monday, you got to see that, you know, for people like Lametti, Omar Alghabra, and Marco Mendicino, these are major, major disappointments. You got to look also outside of Quebec, somebody like Ahmed Hussein, who was immigration minister and more recently housing minister, going to international development. That's got to be a big hit. So you're seeing several former mid-level senior ministers either leaving completely or being seriously demoted. Harjit Sajjan, for example, former defense minister, clearly on the way down.
So let me ask you, David, because, you know, last week we had indications something was coming. Mm-hmm. But all the observers are like, minor cabinet shuffle.
Yeah.
What we are seeing today, where it's demotions en masse or booting out, but also musical chairs for everyone else. What does this say to you?
This says to me several things, Elias. First of all, a lot of people have been talking about either an election this fall or next spring with such a massive cabinet shuffle, bringing in 7 new ministers, especially the 7 new faces are from Ontario, Quebec, and BC. Mm-hmm. Think that's a coincidence? No, it's not. Mm-hmm. This is about setting up the next election where the Liberal seats are going to be very important. Obviously, these are the 3 provinces that can bring the Liberals back to power after the next election. So the fact is that with such an important cabinet shuffle, I think Justin Trudeau may be looking to run this out until 2025.
So, David, when so many people change positions, right, the cynical part of me, and Lord knows that cynical part exists, the cynical part of me says, wow, everyone is changing posts so that there is now, and I don't know, now I want to ask you how many months this is. Is it 3 months or 6 months? Like, how long can a minister in good faith say to reporters, well, you know, I just took over this portfolio, so I'm still getting acclimated to the situation, so they don't have to answer questions, right? So how much of a grace period do you get when you have a new portfolio? Because it seems like everyone got a new portfolio.
Yeah, I don't think there will be much of a grace period. I think this is why Justin Trudeau is doing this in July, so that when the House comes back to sit in September, these ministers will be ready to go. And I think also, Elias, here, in terms of the senior, most important portfolios, I think Justin Trudeau, what he's doing here, he is shortening his bench and going to the most senior, experienced minister. Dominic LeBlanc to public security. Pablo Rodriguez getting transport while remaining Quebec lieutenant. Pascal Saint-Onge being promoted to heritage minister. Mark Miller going to immigration. When you look at this, Pablo, transport, public safety, Canadian heritage, and immigration, these will all be issues that will be coming up in Quebec during a federal campaign that the Bloc and the Conservatives will be attacking on. So you have senior ministers, Dominique LeBlanc, of course, fully bilingual from New Brunswick, but knows Quebec very well. But the rest, and seeing Soraya Martinez from Hochelaga Maisonneuve becoming responsible for Quebec economic development, that shows that Trudeau, and he's doing this also in Ontario and BC, being very, very mindful of electoral math, of how to make sure that he is prioritizing the right issues, the economy, public safety, immigration, heritage, making sure that these issues, which will come up during the next federal campaign and be exploited by the Legault government provincially, but also by the Bloc and the Conservatives federally, they have the best chance of scoring and keeping those seats that are so important for Quebec.
How bad does internal data, internal polling information need to be within the Liberal Party to make these many changes? What do you think the Liberals are what kind of information do they have internally right now?
Well, right now, and we see some of it, right? Liberals right now are hovering at barely 30% across the country. And so to make sure they maintain the 155, 160, and even hope for a majority down the road, they have to look at, okay, it's going to be 10 years in 2025 we're in power. So how do you renew without changing the leader, right? So with Justin Trudeau staying, you have to get a sense that there is renewal, that there's diversity, because the strategy, the game plan here is going to be the same old game plan that has kept the Liberals in power all this time. It's not necessarily about raising the popularity of the Liberals that much. They can stay around 30, 32%. The key here is, on the one hand, making sure that they get a big chunk of the NDP vote because they're going to be afraid of a Poilievre government, but also playing time here, playing for time, because the more we go on, the more Pierre Poilievre defines himself as an extremist. So these two things, with experienced hands in key portfolios and good regional balance and diversity, those are the strategies for the Liberals to make sure that they have a real serious shot at winning again next election.
There's the latest poll from Abacus, right? The Abacus data poll shows a 10-point lead for the Conservatives, 38 to 28. And again, David, it's one poll, and you can't, just to take one poll, but I want to point out one nugget from the Abacus data. Federal vote intention by gender, okay? And this we have always seen, men are voting for Poilievre and women are voting for Trudeau. Federal vote intention among women, it's now 32 for Poilievre, 28 for Trudeau and the Liberals, 23% for Jagmeet Singh and the NDP. So listen, it's one poll and maybe out of whack, but it's the closest we've seen this for women in a while.
Absolutely, Elias. And I'm not disputing the polling data. Right now, if an election were held today, Trudeau and the Liberals would be in an uphill fight for sure. But if we're looking at strategy moving forward with such a massive cabinet shuffle, you got to see this as Trudeau playing for time. And time is always an ally for a government in power. And playing for time right now, you have the ability now with a very experienced senior cabinet taking over key strategic files. You have also a lot of diversity, a lot of youth coming up. And the time here will allow for the Liberals, one, to clear the decks of all the problematic files, like Pablo Rodriguez at transport, cleaning that up. Dominique LeBlanc, public security, cleaning that up. Mark Miller, cleaning up immigration, for example. But the fact is that with something like that, the key for the Liberals is scaring the NDP vote to come back to the Liberals, because Poilievre will define himself as an extremist. And that's why I'm thinking with this, time is the Liberals' best ally here.
Timing is everything. David, thanks for breaking it down. I appreciate your time this morning.
Always a pleasure, Lars.
That's David Heurtel, CJD political analyst, on with us this morning.